Welcome to At Home with Kelly and Tiffany, where we share powerful tools, exciting education, and relatable views about holistic health, physiological birth, and thriving in the female body. We're home birth midwives in sunny San Diego, passionate about the alternatives that give women control and confidence in health, in birth, and in life. We've poured a lot of love into creating very in-depth and high-value offerings, a monthly membership, a physiological birth course, and holistic guides for the women who really want to dive all the way in. But this podcast, we want to bring zero-cost information about health and natural birth and make these important topics accessible, always. Your support of the show is also zero cost and means everything to us. When you leave a review, share an episode, and join our newsletter, it really helps us keep this space open, ad-free, and full of honest, valuable conversations. Now, let's dive into today's show.
You're back with the podcast At Home with Kelly and Tiffany. I'm Tiffany.
I'm Kelly.
And this morning, Kelly, my question for you is, what is something that you have recently relaxed on in parenting? Something that used to feel really important to you, but that you've recently been like, either I can't care about this, or I don't care about this, or my opinion changed about feeling like this is so important. Give us what you got.
Yeah, so I think if you had asked me like 10 years ago, the answer obviously would look different of what I was like holding on to so tightly and then was like, okay, I just need to like relax and let that go. But currently, I would say the biggest thing, and I even like I was like, if I asked my kids, I have a feeling they would probably say the same thing. But because we homeschool, it's like school related. It is not that I'm relaxing on like having them do schoolwork necessarily, but my expectation of their interaction with their schoolwork, their desire to do their schoolwork, their even like what they're good at and their abilities. I've had a massive shift over the last like couple years, but especially seeing as my older kids are getting older, what like they're really good at and what they really don't like, and stop trying to force the thing that they don't like to be like their thing, right? We're outside of like conventional school for a reason, and trying to fit the kids into these molds of, well, you need to be good at everything. You need to get A's in all of these classes. Even if you hate it, here's how we're going to like manage that kind of thing. And so not that we're not doing the things, but my whole mindset has really changed on how I'm interacting with these things and figuring out, what do you really need to know? What is going to help you in life? And not that they couldn't change their thing, that they could not like something now and like it later. I'm not trying to just like wipe it out and say, okay, then fine, we're just not going to do it. But yes, my expectation and just viewpoint of school stuff has, been relaxing over the years, and watching them like become their own people outside of me and my expectations has actually been really good for me, both in my relationship with them, but also just like my assessment of what the heck we are doing with our lives anyway, and why we're homeschooling, and who I want them to be, and how I can help them be good, well-rounded people, all of it.
Yeah, I was talking with another homeschool mom recently who's actually like putting on a conference in our area in San Diego in October. I'll link that in our show notes, because they asked me to come and speak at it, and I was like, what the heck am I going to talk about? I don't even know what we're doing most of the time in homeschool. And she's like, just talk about the mistakes. Just talk about all the mistakes that you've made. I'm like, yeah, easy peasy. Okay, I can talk the entire conference about all the mistakes I've made. But in homeschool especially, and I think it's like anything where you're like, oh, this is on me. I'm the one driving the ship here. I have a lot of responsibility in this, but also with that responsibility comes freedom. And I see that translated into so many places in lives for us as moms and women. Like, taking more responsibility actually does produce more freedom. It feels scary, but as you get to know what it is that you're going for and what you're looking for and what you need and what your kids need, you just can step out in a different boldness. So this other mom was like, well, the why that you homeschool, the reason for homeschooling is going to be, that's the thread that carries you through your, journey. And I was thinking, I don't know. I think my why is changing all the time
100%.
based off of, yeah, totally. Like the reason I started homeschooling is not at all the reason that we have continued homeschooling, or if I had to do it all over again, I would have a completely different why. But I think it's just that way in parenting in general, and navigating those ups and downs, feeling more comfortable. I always laugh at like us giving my mom such a hard time raising our youngest brother, who is 7 years younger than me and just got a whole different parenting experience, which was like much more hands off in general.
Yep.
We were like, Mom, where's all the rules that you made us follow? And she's like, I just thought it was just a general waste of energy and time for all of us. And so let him raise himself. Pros and cons to that approach for sure.
Yeah, what's interesting too, as I'm like looking back, thinking about that question and the things that I have thought that I've held on to really dearly, and then been like, oh, actually, that's not important, or some things that are still important or just as important, right, as day one. It's just interesting to think about when I was a kid looking at my parents, thinking they have it all together, right? Like, or just adults in general. Like, I remember thinking, oh, you're an adult, you've figured it all out by now, right? And you just assume the decisions that they make or the things that are important to them are for a reason, and they've learned more and all of that, right? But as an adult parent now, I'm like, oh, we're all just figuring it out, right? Like, we're all growing. I'm a different person than I was even 5 years ago, right? And so being able to say like that's okay, and lay down some things and pick up new things, that's okay. And it's okay if you're in a place where you're like, I made a different decision last time, but I'm doing something different now because I know something different, I feel something different, I am a different person. And like just being okay with a little bit of that cognitive dissonance of like, interesting, I'm doing something different than I ever thought I would, but that it's not necessarily bad, right?
Yeah, and I think we can translate that, and I'm sure our listeners are getting ready for the metaphor, right? But I'm sure we don't have to lay out the metaphor. Everyone can kind of just see how that is an example of how we navigate birth and choices in birth and that early parenting that we do in pregnancy and postpartum and such. And I'm excited to get into this morning sickness protocol of ours. It's a really hot topic. I think it would take a long time for us to unpack just morning sickness in general, but someone who is looking for help with morning sickness wants to know exactly what to actually do. And so that's why we're just sharing the protocol here today, some things to consider, some things to add in for women who just want that quickest actionable steps on this really common thing in pregnancy. But before we jump in, I have a review to share. You guys know we're trying to catch up on these reviews over the past year so that they don't disappear in the abyss of where those reviews go. I don't know. If anybody knows where all the reviews end up, I'd love to know. I would like to go back and read some of the old ones sometimes.
Right.
But this is called My Favorite Podcast. So of course we're going to read it on the show. And the handle for this lovely lady is absolutely insane. I don't know where. No, I think maybe her toddler typed it in for her. It's CMCMCM space MMCMCM. It keeps going. I don't know what happens after the ... there.
It's out with the other reviews somewhere out in the cloud.
Yeah, the rest of the handles is in the cloud. Okay, so this is what this lovely lady says. After experiencing a miscarriage earlier this year under the care of hospital midwives and feeling deeply uncared for, I knew I needed to find support and a better plan for the next time I'm pregnant. I listened to a lot of podcasts about pregnancy loss and birth and became more open and curious about home birth. When I discovered this podcast, I was totally hooked. You guys are so funny. There's almost no ads, and you share so much really useful information. I cried listening to your miscarriage episode. It was the only thing that made me feel better about getting pregnant again because it made me feel confident that I could find a care provider that would make me feel cared for should I lose another pregnancy. It really confirmed for me that I need to see home birth midwives the next time I conceive, and I'm excited to try home birth. I'm currently working on getting my body into a good place to conceive again, and I would be really interested in a deep dive on how to support healthy sperm. So she left a great review and then threw in a quick little request.
Some dude
which,
stuff.
for those, that's boy stuff. I actually do have an episode planned at some point for men's role in fertility. That's just a topic that's really coming out with lots of developing research and information. And we might even have episodes, because we've been podcasting for so long, we might even have episodes where we say something like the majority of infertility issues do land on the woman. And now, we know, I don't know if we would ever come out and say that necessarily, but throughout the course of several years, we're learning so much more. And so we should share on some of that. But for those of you who are listening who are interested in that episode, we can put that episode in the show notes about processing miscarriage. That is just a resource that you don't need until you're needing it, and you're right in the moment, and you just need to know what to do. We also have a fertility handbook where we actually do talk about men's role in fertility, and we give a lot of tips and examples and ideas for helping your guy to contribute the best possible DNA to your little baby. And so we can put those in show notes for ladies who are listening. Kelly, do you have anything else you want to say on that, on in that space before we jump into our protocol?
Yeah, well, that review, sometimes I'm like, oh, that's like so sweet, but goodness gracious, that is so important and impactful and meaningful. And I was like, man, the way that we speak about these things that women go through, sometimes we either go like super clinical or very like ethereal, and give like recommend or encouragement that like doesn't really hold any weight or help really, right? And so I don't know, just being able to share stuff like that like really, really matters. And on the male fertility part, like, I just think it's fascinating. There's more research coming out, but like there's more that we have to be really proactive about now too, just given that research, in terms of like where we see male fertility going in the future, and how my hand is up, but it's actually way down. And so, yeah, as much as we are women's health experts, that matters so much to our female experience also, and just our collective experience as a society and world that is trying to continue to procreate, that it actually really does matter. So I'm interested and like excited to kind of deep dive on that.
Yeah, can I share something that I just remembered that I'm really late to the game here, but we just started A Handmaid's Tale. Have you watched that show?
I never have.
Or read the book? Yeah, so I was like kind of warned off of it, that it was like extremely disturbing and
Right.
upsetting, and maybe I wouldn't enjoy it. But so many people told me not to watch it that I'm like, and I just saw it on Hulu and I was like, I'm watching this. It is disturbing and creepy, but it does absolutely have some real life fertility pieces, like some real life ties and possibilities. We can't get into it. I don't even know why I brought it up. I'm trying to process what the content I've exposed myself to. We'll talk about it in another episode, because
Great.
I feel like we need to talk about it.
Gotta unpack some things.
Well, we will unpack some things. But those of you who have seen the show, who are listening, you know where I'm at. Started the show and I'm like, I don't know about this, you guys, but I'm going to keep watching. Okay, morning sickness protocol. We have lots of things to share. We're not saying, hey, when you're feeling your absolute crummiest at the worst part of your pregnancy, what you need to do is go out and do and take all these things. What we're saying is, here are some options for you. If you were our client, we would say, this is the hardest hitting that you can do that's going to support yourself, that has the best research backed for it, that is going to make the biggest impact in helping you feel better. Let's create a plan and help you figure out how to get these things in your body and, absorb them and keep them down. But before we jump into the things to take, I feel just responsible as a midwife to mention a couple of things that are more root cause. So if you're listening to this now and you are in the throes of morning sickness, this might not be the information that you need. It might not be the time to go and try to figure out the root cause of your morning sickness. But if you're listening to this and you have a history of morning sickness, or women in your family do, and you want to try to prevent it from happening, the things to pay attention to just in general coming into pregnancy and having the best experience possible, you want to be thinking about the realm of possibility, especially if you're someone who has gotten very sick in the past, to consider things like nutrient deficiencies, to consider blood sugar regulation. That's something that we harp on women all the time as they're preparing their bodies for pregnancy for many reasons. We want to make sure that your detox pathways are open. So when those big surge of pregnancy hormones come on board in that first trimester, your liver can process them and help them get out of your body so they're not recirculating in your bloodstream. Gut imbalances and digestive issues are also linked to severe nausea and vomiting in early pregnancy. Women who come into pregnancy with hormonal sensitivity or hormonal imbalance are at greater risk for having morning sickness. Women with histamine intolerance is something to pay attention to. It's just your body's general inability to break down certain, histamine reactions and responses and be able to process those metabolically. Thyroid can be something that needs to be checked on. Stress and cortisol dysregulation, and some genetic factors like MTHFR. You guys have heard us talk about that. That can cause increased methylation, which makes it difficult for you to process and absorb vitamins, really important vitamins like vitamin B for pregnancy. So things to be thinking about just from a root cause perspective, because sometimes it's great to put the Band-Aid on, great to take the pill for it, great to try to just patch things up and move on. But if there's an underlying issue that's not addressed, that could come up later in your pregnancy too. So just having an awareness, I think, ladies.
Yeah, and that's the gift of, well, you can try to pivot and do things once you find out you're pregnant and you're dealing with this, right? And trying to, support those things. But the gift of like going into conception thoughtfully when you have the opportunity to do so is so wonderful, because those are all things that when women come to us and are like, I want to get pregnant in the next 6 months or something, we're like, great, let's be able to focus on all of this stuff and really work on it and help. Granted, we don't have like a magic wand that, takes away all of the things, but being able to feel like I've done everything I can to prepare for this is a really empowering place to be, but also can really help your pregnancy feel so much easier in a lot of different ways. Coming from somebody who didn't plan on their third pregnancy, and it was the hardest one possible because I was just playing catch up on all of the things that I had thrown my body out of whack into during midwifery school. And so that's my little recommendation there to, if you are able to, think about those things and think about your family planning and talk about those things so that you can kind of prepare that landscape of your body the best that you can. So you can actually really enjoy more of your pregnancy than try to play pickup along the way.
Yes, that is what it's all about, right? Not all of us have the luxury, like you said. Some pregnancies are unplanned. Everyone should have the novelty of one planned pregnancy in their life, I say. It's just fun. It's fun to plan one if you've ever had an unplanned one. Okay, we have three core supplements that women should really be working hard on into their bodies. And then we have some additional options and such. We're going to go through the dosing protocol with you ladies so that it gives you some context for how we would recommend this to our own clients. But there is a link to the whole entire protocol in the show notes. And so you can just jump to the show notes, click on the protocol. It'll take you exactly to the professional supplement dispensary where we put all of our high quality vitamins and supplements, and you can get them for 25% off there. And it's you don't have to buy. You can just go look at the protocol. You can just go look at the suggestions and buy them someplace else if you can find them for a better price. You absolutely won't, but you can just enjoy the information. You don't have to buy your supplements there, but that is where we're housing this particular protocol in full script. So those of you who are listening can go. And I don't know, I like listening to things, but when I'm really trying to keep track of details, it's really hard for me to hear and remember. So I need to see it written down somewhere. Okay, first one is vitamin B6. And this dose is 25 milligrams, 2 to 3 times a day. So you want to be looking at your prenatal that has any potential B6 in it. You want to be looking at any B complex that you're currently taking, because that's a recommendation for pregnancy too. And you want to make sure that you don't exceed over 100 milligrams a day of B6 specifically, but you want to really have these 3 doses 3 times a day. We recommend B6 because it just has really good research to reduce nausea, especially when it's combined with other things. So that's why we start with this one. B6 is just a part of energy metabolism and just the regeneration of the cells in our body and how mitochondria function. And so getting a lot of this just helps with that cell turnover and helps with your body to create energy and detox.
So like you said, we're combining some of these things. So you may try and be like, oh, I'm taking all this B6. Why don't I feel better? Right. We can kind of mess around with bringing all of these different things together. The next one that would absolutely be recommended in a handful of different ways would be ginger. So ginger comes in in like real form, right? You can get ginger tea, you can get ginger capsules, you can get ginger tinctures. I mean, there's a million different ways that you can consume it, but there's great research about reducing nausea and vomiting in pregnancy and also just general inflammation reduction. And so this is a great one to just have on hand for anybody in your family, but a great one for sure if you are dealing with morning sickness, or I know we call it morning sickness, it's just all day, right? It pops up at different times. So any kind of nausea or vomiting in pregnancy. So you're going to be looking to take about 250 to 500 milligrams when you do take it. And that can be up to 3 times a day. So you can get on top of it, drink some ginger tea in the morning to kind of wake up. You can have a ginger candy. This is why so many of those like pregnancy related nausea things include ginger, right? Like the ginger candies and the Preggy Pops, all of that have ginger in it because there's real research, right, showing that. And you can kind of create that sustainability throughout the day of just kind of weaving it in. You can also freeze some of it, right? Toss it into some warm water at the end of the night, things like that. So there's lots of ways that you can include some of these things, because some of them, yes, are going to come in capsules, and that may sound like the death of you when you're feeling nauseous. And so if all you have are ginger capsules or B6 capsules, right, you can always open them up and just get the powder from the inside, put that inside of something, right? Some tea, a smoothie, something that you can keep down, or at least feel somewhat palatable as you are taking it, and just weave that in the best that you possibly can. So that gin absolutely would be one of the frontline things that we would recommend to our clients for sure.
Yep. And then lastly on this core list of supplements is magnesium glycinate or magnesium lotion. If again, taking things orally is just like not your jam right now, you can get your magnesium topically, and your body actually, when it bypasses digestion, your body can actually absorb quite a bit. You just would need to use it several times a day in order to get the amount of magnesium. We want to do 300 to 400 milligrams, probably divided would be best, having something mid-morning and then again before bed, dividing that into, 2 doses or so. And this supports digestion. It reduces anxiety. It causes any kind of muscle cramps or spasming that might be happening in your digestive tract. And just all around a really good supplement to be on for your entire life. And what I think women have a hard time wrapping their head around is it's good to get magnesium in oral supplementation. It's good to get magnesium in topical application. It's good to get magnesium in your food. It's good to get magnesium in the herbal nutrition teas that you're drinking. It's good to have all of these different variety and ways of just having a mineral rich lifestyle with magnesium, because our bodies burn through it very quickly every single day, but especially when we're stressed, fatigued, not sleeping well, and all those things. And so if you're experiencing severe nausea and vomiting in your pregnancy, you're absolutely burning through your magnesium. So though the recommendation is 300 to 400 milligrams per day, you can easily bump that up to 700 or 800 milligrams as long as you're working with that glycinate part of it. There are some magnesiums that you can overdo other types of magnesiums that actually are going to give you more GI symptoms. But glycinate is really easy to absorb, really easy for your body to utilize for all of these things, and just is a good, well-rounded mineral to have on board, especially for morning sickness.
Yeah, so those are like the three that I would say if somebody was like, I'm struggling with this, we would be like, okay, try these things, right? But thankfully, it's not the only options out there, especially if you're like looking through your cabinet right now, your supplement cabinet, and you're like, ooh, I have two of those. What else do I have in here that may be helpful? One of the top ones, it kind of goes back to this like mineral rich lifestyle. That's like I want to look through that hashtag. I like this idea. But if you have electrolytes on hand or want to go purchase some, that's a great way to help with lots of extra hydration in your body, especially if you are somebody who, like, when you feel nauseous or whatever, that you're consistently kind of vomiting, it's a great way to help rehydrate your body. That is going to give kind of this whole body like revitalization more so than quote just water, right? So the issue with some electrolytes is that there's not really, they may look good on their packaging, but they have a bunch of added sugar or artificial dyes to make them look a certain way, right? So just opting for like the clean kind of pregnancy safe electrolyte powders is going to be probably your best bet as you kind of are choosing something to put in your body that's designed to help it rather than add an extra layer of work that your liver and your body have to do to kind of detox from it. But that electrolytes, and I think just in general, it's a great one to have on hand throughout pregnancy, just because it sort of is a little buffer in terms of hydration and mineral support too.
Yeah, and if you want to be like, I'm saying be lazy with it, but only in the sense like lazy that you don't want to buy an extra thing, but this is actually more work. You can make your own electrolyte drink with a pinch of sea salt and some lemon juice and, a little bit of cream of tartar. I mean, there's so many recipes online that you can make your own. So if you want to be cheap, maybe that's what I mean. If you want to be cheap, make it yourself. If you want to be lazy, you can buy one. And we're always being asked for our recommendations on these because I think women recognize that there's a lot of opportunity for additives. So again, you guys can find that on the Full Script protocol. And the next one is enjoying digestive bitters or lemon balm tea. And these two options, I mean, lemon balm is an herb. It has its own beautiful mechanism for toning the nervous system and helping with anxiety. Often that is something that's accompanying feeling nauseous for days and days on end. But what they both do is they support bile flow and digestion. And that can really be the ticket for women. Sometimes they just need that encouragement for bile flow to come and help bring all of the toxins from the circulate from your blood circulation and move it into your digestive tract for elimination. And bile is really good at that. We recommend starting with a tiny dose of these digestive bitters. They can be found in tincture form or capsules, or you can make teas, but doing just a little bit before each meal and kind of playing around with that a little bit, getting that bile flow to surge while you're eating, help your food digest, and then see if that has an effect on your nausea the next day.
Yeah, and I always thought, like, in my head, the words digestive bitters just sounds, I'm like, I don't want to do that. That sounds gross. Not nearly as gross, and actually some of them are somewhat tasty. So don't let that make you afraid to try if you're interested in trying like all of these different options. The next one you may already have sitting around your home already, but it would be different parts of aromatherapy. In particular, essential oils are wonderful because they're just like quick ways to be able to enjoy this. But in the family of mint or citrus are great at helping. We actually always keep those in our birth bags too for moms who are feeling nauseous and during labor itself. And so smelling some of those really fresh scents can really calm nausea almost immediately in some situations. And so what we will do is keep, lemon, peppermint, those oils nearby, and an easy way, you can drop it in your hand, rub it together, and kind of like, put your hands in front of your nose and just deeply breathe in. You can put it on a little Kleenex, sniff that for a little bit, put it off to the side, sniff it when you need to, open the bottle literally and just sniff it from right there, put it on your wrists, something like that, right? So that you have easy access to it. It sounds kind of strange, but it's one of the tools that we have to help, especially before you get to that vomiting part where you're just like, oh, this morning may not be the morning for me, right? You're getting out of bed or something, or you're starting to feel it creep up. This is a great one to help bring in just for extra support to kind of hold you over as you are considering what your body is going to do with how you're feeling. It may be just enough for you to smell it, kind of calm your system down a little bit, and then go grab a snack or something too that can kind of lift you over some of that nausea and discomfort.
Yeah, and there's so many tips that you can find in so many different places about like how to get food on board, how to stabilize blood sugar, how to, use protein, how to, just deal with that food piece of it. That is absolutely worth doing a little bit of research on, because turning the corner really, right? Mm-hmm. Getting women to turn the corner, and sometimes that aromatherapy can keep you from vomiting again just long enough that you can get up and go make that, protein smoothie for yourself real quick and turn the corner on the day. Sometimes it's just, like you said, just open the bottle. Like when my kids are having tummy troubles, like they don't want it on themselves or on anything. They just take the cap off and just smell the cap. Just so helpful. And then lastly, in this additional section of things to, kind of consider adding in and making a part of the picture is probiotics. And of course, we're getting so much information lately about how important the gut and digestive tract is, and the good flora there, and the balance, and all of those things. When you are not feeling your best, when you are not eating your normal foods, when you have a lot of digestive upset, like vomiting, when your stomach is just unsettled, that you're just going to be imbalanced digestively. And I'm not saying that to make women feel even worse about their situation, but when you feel like you can tolerate adding some more things in, probiotics should be at the top of the list for just restoring that. And sometimes there's some great strains out there that sometimes just actually improve the symptoms right away. And one of those that's really well studied for morning sickness symptoms specifically is Lactobacillus rhamnosus. And you guys will see that on our protocol too. So if you're going to go to grab anything, look for that strand so that you can see if that's the ticket, if that's the, one little key that's going to switch over to helping you get over the hump and help you feel better.
Yeah, so those are like our big hitters in terms of recommendations to not necessarily put a Band-Aid on, but to include and to weave into and support yourself as you are working through something that can be really debilitating. It can go anywhere from like, this is a mild annoyance to this is changing my entire life and I need some help here. So if you go into our show notes, like we mentioned, you will find our entire protocol, everything that we mentioned here, and brands that we love. Again, always 25% off MSRP. So that is a great place to get any supplements, this or beyond. We'll link another podcast episode also where we jump into both morning sickness, but also a bunch of other just annoying, complications and issues and discomforts that come up in pregnancy. And then we will also, you'll find in there like the fertility handbook, our miscarriage episode, everything that we kind of chatted about, you will find in there. If you are not a member of our newsletter list, you will find a link to show up there, our childbirth education class, our monthly membership, all of the different ways that you can get connected with us in this kind of proactive midwifery education in any season is there for you. So hopefully this was a helpful thing for you to listen to today, whether you are walking through it now or, again, trying to be as proactive as possible for a future, or just loving on a friend, right, who is dealing with this as well. And we will catch you next week.
Hey ladies, if you're loving the show and want to help us keep it ad-free so we can keep talking about all things birth and women's health without cutting to an ad about electrolytes or grass-fed beef sticks, here is how you can support us. First, leave us a quick review or a rating. It helps more women, new moms, and birth enthusiasts find our show, and it honestly means so much to us to be reminded that you love what we are doing here. Second, share this episode with a friend, with a doula buddy, or anyone who is on their own holistic health or natural birth journey. And third, hop on our newsletter list. This is where we share bonus goodies, behind-the-scenes stuff, fun little extras you just won't hear on the show. You can find that link to join in our show notes below. Thanks so much for being a part of this growing, empowered community. We could not do it without you.